वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतं वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ब्रह्मानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वधी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तन्नमामि। गोपाल कृष्ण भगवान की जय, सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। Pranam to all of you. We are into the second session of Trigun Vichar, and so far we have covered one characteristic of tamoguna. And before we continue with the topic today, let's try to set the context again as to why we need to study these topics, why we need to study Bhagavad Gita. All of us are householders, all of us are professionals, and there were questions around this, that what is the need of this knowledge? My life as of now is completely fine. There is no big problem. There is family, there is profession, there are kids, and more or less everything is kind of settled. And even if there are problems or issues, I don't think this Gita is going to really help me with whatever issue or problem I'm facing right now in my life. And that's a common question to most of us householders who start on this spiritual path. Why do we need to study this text? Why do we need to understand these topics? The answer is given by Bhagwan Shri Krishna in Gita itself. The answer is given in Upanishads, and I'm going to say just one or two shloka or lines here to reiterate what Krishna is trying to tell us. In the 14th chapter, the Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, Krishna kind of makes a promise to us. Idam jnanam upashritya mama sadharme magataha sargepi nopajayante pralaye na vyathanti cha. Just couple of snippets from this shloka. Krishna says, Idam jnanam upashritya. When you take refuge in this knowledge, which knowledge? The spiritual knowledge. The fact that I am not the body, I am Brahman, and Brahman is the ultimate reality of this entire world. And other than Brahman, everything else is unreal. When you take refuge in this knowledge, the promise is that pralaye na vyathanti cha. That's what Krishna is promising. Pralaya here means the end, destruction, death. We think of pralay only as a cosmic pralay, as pralay of Srushti, but before the cosmic pralay comes, we face this, the end, many times in our lives. The end of many different relationships, the end of people, destruction, death, snatching away people, objects, events, circumstances, things which are very, very dear to us, things about which we care very deeply, they get taken away from us. Sometimes naturally, sometimes due to the circumstances over which we have no control. And all of this comes under the category of pralaya, wherein there is the end of some kind, destruction of some kind which happens in our life. And in most cases, people become unhappy when there is time of this pralaya, when there is time of this viyoga. And it's not just about a person, it's not just about an object, but even certain things like my success is taken away from me, my money is taken away from me, my prestige is taken away from me, my sense of well-being is taken away from me. Even little kids, right? Even small things. Just, I remember there was this little get-together I went to, and a group of kids was playing together, and they were talking. I think it was time, month of December, January, it was time for their exams, board exams or something. These were kids going to, I believe, 4th, 5th, 6th grade. That was the group that was playing together. And I was kind of trying to give them water and listening to their conversation. And they were saying कि अभी एग्ज़ाम का टाइम है, अभी DDPK शुरू हो गया है ना, it's time for DDPK. I was very curious. I asked them, okay guys, what is this DDPK? And they were saying कि aunty, DDPK means dukh, dard, pida and kasht. And I'm like, what kind of DDPK you have in your life right now? And they said, all our playtime will be stopped. All our video games and TV time will be taken away from us. And now we have to sit down and study for exams. So playtime, screen time, something is taken away from me and a person becomes unhappy. This unhappiness has its root in some kind of pralaya. And Krishna is promising here, if you take refuge in this knowledge, that will permanently remove all kind of suffering from your life. Mahantam vibhum atmanam matva dhiro na shochati. If you understand what this Atma is, Upanishad says, then dhiro na shochati. You will never be happy. Harsha shoko jahati. You will transcend this little sorrow and little joys, whatever you experience on a day-to-day basis. We have all these problems in our life which we try to fix in many different worldly ways. I am poor, so I will try to get wealth. I am lonely, so I will try to get married. Even after married, we feel lonely, so we will try to have kids. And then, there is this bunch of things regarding kids. Then I am not having a sense of self-esteem, so I will try to go and work and have a job, or try to go and work in some sort of society. So we try to overcome sorrow in many different worldly ways. To some extent, we are able to overcome sorrow if we take refuge in other worldly solutions, but that is not a permanent removal of the suffering from our life. For permanent removal, for all kind of DDPK, Vyatha, Kashta, Dukh, Dard, Pida from our life, if there is one knowledge that can help us, it is this spiritual knowledge. It is this knowledge which is taught in Bhagvad Gita, which is taught in Dasbodh and Jnaneshwari and Panchadashi and Vichar Sagar, and all these Vedantic texts, they are kind of trying to lead us in the same direction. For us to understand this ultimate reality, it is important to understand the topic of three gunas and the basic sort of information about these three gunas as to how these gunas play in our day-to-day life, how we can manage them in our day-to-day life so that we become reasonably stable, reasonably composed and calm, and then we are able to think about these higher truths and higher reality of life. So that's the general background, and with that we come back to tamoguna, wherein we first saw that lack of viveka, lack of discernment, lack of discretion is the first sign, first characteristic of tamoguna. These people do not know, do not understand what to say, how to behave, how to conduct themselves in certain situation, and they will say and do completely random, bizarre, absolutely horrific things because in that moment they are under the influence of tamoguna, they are driven by tamoguna. Sometimes this indiscreetness comes from genuine ignorance, and sometimes these people understand that they are doing something wrong. Despite that, they will continue doing something wrong. So that's the first characteristic of tamoguna. The second one is uncontrollable anger and violence. Now remember, some of the characteristics of tamoguna and rajoguna are overlapping. So there is anger in rajoguna as well, but in tamoguna the anger is an extreme anger, uncontrollable anger which kind of ends up towards violence. And not just anger, but all the other vikaras. So for example, kama, krodha, lobha, desire, greed, jealousy, temptation, all of these when they become excess, when they become uncontrollable, they come under the realm of tamoguna. The problem with anger is this particular emotion is normalized and standardized and glamorized in today's day-to-day life because of the movies, because of the social media, and because of whatever literature we read and consume on a day-to-day basis. We see some kind of TV serial or some kind of movie wherein the hero comes and he is under extreme anger. He will break the furniture, break the glasses, break the window, and shout and yell and scream. and be really sarcastic. He will give threats, he will use harsh words, and all of that is considered okay because the hero is really angry, and what else he will do because so much of injustice has been done to this person. So this anger has been standardized and given prestige in our movies and in social media and in the social life. This uncontrollable anger, which is a result of tamoguna, it blinds the person to the point that he is not able to recognize his own parents, his own siblings, his own spouse, and then all the domestic violence cases that we see in today's society are a result of this uncontrollable anger, which is because of tamoguna. In recent times, I have read these, I think in probably last 1 week or so. These are the headlines, some of them I have noted down, which I have read in the newspaper. Real news, real headlines. Man kills wife suspecting infidelity and arrested. Jilted man gets life imprisonment for killing girl's parents. Husband, sister-in-law imprisonment for killing girl's parents. Husband, sister-in-law arrested in murder of a woman. An absolutely gruesome headline. I will drink your blood. Woman slaps, bites, thrashes her own mother in Haryana over a property dispute. Now all of these domestic violence cases we see in society on a day-to-day basis. And sometimes when we read and watch this kind of news, we become very, very disturbed. I remember about a decade ago when I used to read this kind of news, it used to disturb me a lot as to why people behave like that and what is the difference between animals and these people. So this violence, people behave like this in that moment because they are completely taken over by tamoguna, an extreme degree of tamoguna. It's not just inflicting harm on others, but there is also this other variation of committing suicide. There is this syndrome, it's called celebrity worship syndrome, CWS, which is an obsessive addictive disorder in which a person becomes completely overly involved with some sort of celebrity, maybe a film star or a sports star or a politician, whatever. And because something happened to that star, this person will commit suicide. These people who are engaged into tamoguna, who are enraged by tamoguna, will engage themselves into some sort of self-harm, harming others, things like slitting throat and cutting wrist and setting someone on fire, drowning someone in water. All these cases of violence, extreme violence, wherein people are fighting, harming each other, that's tamoguna. Also, it is not just physical abuse, but it is also mental abuse, psychological extreme abuse, quarreling, gossiping, name calling. All of this is manifestation of tamoguna. All kind of cruelty and ruthlessness. Right now, we are only looking at characteristics, not exactly how to deal with them. Remember one thing, right? This is not a society wherein God has not created this society with the worldview that there will be only good people living in the society. God has created this society. Even in the times of Rama, even in the times of Krishna, there were people as bad as Duryodhana and Shakuni and Ravana and Karna, and we don't have to go through that history again. So it is the yojana of the Ishvara that there will be some really good people, there will be some really bad people, and a majority of people who fall somewhere in between. They are not completely good, they are not completely bad. They get pulled in whichever direction they get pulled in. Whatever influences them, they get pulled in that direction. So really good, really bad and intermediate people is the yojana of Ishvara. This is how the society has always been in the times of Rama and Krishna, and this is how the society will always be even in the future times. So that's one more manifestation of tamoguna, extreme anger and violence. Another variation of this is abnormal devotion, what we call aghori bhakti, right, in day-to-day life. So there are these people who will engage into extremely abnormal forms of devotion, which again involves self-harm and harming others. There are these people who worship dead bodies and a host of ghosts. They engage in like some sort of really gruesome austerities, like gruesome tapas. They will try to do something in their own mind, whatever they think is right, they will try to do it by torturing their body, because according to them, that is the way to do bhakti of the God, of the Ishvara. They will go to the temple. In front of the temple, they will stand, pierce themselves with some sort of weapon, offer their head or some sort of body part to the god, roll down a huge slope of 20 kilometers or so, crawl down for 20 kilometers in front of God's temple. Then there are people, you must have seen this image of people hitting themselves with whip in front of God, holding some sort of fast stubbornly. And all of these gruesome, harmful practices wherein a person tortures his own body under the name of doing some sort of devotion to God, that is a manifestation of tamoguna. It is not real bhakti. Whatever they show in movies or anywhere else is not real bhakti. That's tamasic bhakti. There are people who will practice panchagni sadhan. They will stand in the middle, they will put fire all around them and do some sort of mantra japa. There are people who will offer an animal, offer a person as a oblation. In Hyderabad, it's a common practice. Even during Navratri, there is a community which will kill animal every single day, offer it to the Devi, and then take it as a prasad after offering it to a Devi. So they will indulge in all sorts of violence and harmful activities under the name of God, and that is again manifestation of tamoguna, tamasic bhakti. Another manifestation of tamoguna, the next one and the most important, is pramada. The word pramada in Sanskrit means negligence. There are some people who are completely negligent, kind of careless attitude. I don't give a damn. And then there are people who are really indifferent. They really don't care as to what is happening in the house around them. They will not take any responsibility of any work. They will not hold themselves accountable for anything. Like just, मैं राजा हूँ, I will do whatever I want, my life, my wish. Another mistake of pramada is making repeated mistakes, doing the same mistake over and over again because you are not careful enough and attentive enough. Pramada is again of two kinds. All of these traits that people do not do what they are supposed to do, or people keep doing what they are not supposed to do. And all of these kind of mistakes and behavioral traits are examples of pramada, traits of tamoguna. And I will just give a couple of examples. These are again real life examples I've heard, that these days in India, there is a trait that because of medical science, people have long life. So in some families, the parents live very long, 80 year, 90 year, 95 year. And after 80 years or so, the parents become really old, frail. In some cases, the parents were suffering through dementia or disease like Alzheimer's. And there was this trend in between wherein the son and daughter-in-law or daughter and son-in-law, whoever is taking care of the old parents, cannot do it anymore. They just get bored, they just get tired, they don't know what to do with their parents who are ailing and old and suffering. So they will take their parents to a railway station, put a ticket in their hands, take away all their ID cards and all kinds of identity from them, one-way ticket, put them in the train and leave them just like that, completely abandon them on the train. These old people, because they are suffering through dementia or Alzheimer's, they will get down on some station and they will be picked up by this organization. And I was talking to a member of that organization that this is how kids treat their parents in these days. This is pramada, deliberate mistake, deliberately avoiding your responsibilities. And then everything under this umbrella, there are people, real life cases wherein they were telling me that my son is now 28 years old or 32 years old, but he still will not go to the work, he will still not earn money, he is still not independent, he is still acting like a parasite upon me, not ready to take the responsibility at all. All of this is pramada, negligence, carelessness, making mistakes over and over again. And why people behave like that? Because they are completely taken over by tamoguna in that situation or in that duration when they act like this. So this is pramada, and the last one is laziness or sleep, right? And this one is familiar to us. Extreme lethargy, bas bilkul Monday blues. I don't feel like getting up from the bed. Who will go to the office? Who will sit in the traffic? Procrastinating things, putting off tasks till last minute, not following the timings. I remember I used to go to a yoga class many years ago. I think this was about 15 years ago or something. And the lady who would conduct the yoga class was very, very particular about following the timings. She would start her yoga class at 7 o'clock in the morning, and she told us 7 o'clock means 7 o'clock. It does not mean 6:59, it does not mean 7:01. So if we reached the class at 7:01, we could reach the class 5 minutes early, she would take us in. But if we reached the class 1 minute late, 7:01, she would shut the door and no one would be allowed in the class after 7 o'clock. That was how particular she was. And then there is completely other end of people who would just do not follow timings at all. All of this comes from being borderline tamoguna, of being lazy, of being procrastinating, making excuses, not following the time, not following the discipline, all due to tamoguna, all a manifestation of tamoguna. And then there are many more manifestations you can think of: being disorganized, not keeping things right where they belong, neglecting hygiene. There are people who will just, come straight to the dining table right from the bed where they sleep. They will not brush their teeth, they will not comb their hair, they will not get dressed up properly. All of these behavioral traits come under tamoguna. And same thing about sleep. Now see, there are two different types of sleep. One is the kind of sleep which my body needs, which is necessary for my body. That is also a manifestation of tamoguna. And second is a type of sleep which my body does not need, but I just indulge into it. And that is an extreme tamoguna. Both are tamoguna, but one is necessary for the functioning of the body and one is unnecessary, wherein it is just an indulgence. So this is just a kind of high level overview of tamoguna, some of the characteristics. The reason we are studying them in detail, so that when we go to the next level of studying tamoguna, we should be able to identify these traits in others, in ourselves, and try to fix them at the root level. And we will look at that a little later. So tamoguna we have seen, and the next one is rajoguna and its characteristics. In the rajoguna, the word rajas has a root word which means ranja. And the word ranja means anurag or asakti in Sanskrit. And in English, the meaning of that is anurag and asakti means strong attachment or passion. Asakti, that's what it means. And while expressing or while explaining the characteristics of rajoguna, Bhagwan Shri Krishna says, Rajo ragatmakam viddhi trushna sanga samudbhavam tannibadhnati kaunteya karma sangena dehinam. Ragatmakam viddhi. Raga means attachment. That is again one of the main characteristics of rajoguna. And then there are a number of others. Without getting into the Sanskrit, let's just quickly go over some of these characteristics and some of the examples how they manifest in our life. So the first and most important manifestation of rajoguna is this craving for sense pleasures. And when I say craving, I don't say desire, because again, as I said, all of us are householder people. We are not sannyasins. We will have some desires. We will want some sense pleasures in our life. And there is acceptance. Our scriptures have given us a leeway, a boundary, in which we can definitely go and enjoy all the sense pleasures which the material life has to offer us. But this is not just a simple plain desire. In rajoguna, it translates to a craving. In Sanskrit, the word for is trushna, a thirst which never gets fulfilled. And everything which is flashy, everything which is glamorous, I want branded clothes, I want this classy perfume, I want to go on exotic vacations. Even when I go on a vacation, I will not stay in that ordinary resort. I will stay in Mahindra and Club Mahindra and this kind of hotel. I remember my son or my nephew, someone sent me a picture a while ago. They live in a college, in the hostel, in the dorm. These guys stay there. And they sent me a picture of a college going kid, second year or third year child. So, he was a boy. And there was a shoe rack. And there were 21 pairs of shoes in that shoe rack. And that was a real picture of this college going kid who is going to the second year or the third year. Then there are people who want matching accessories. There's a lot of emphasis, I have to have this kind of bangles and jewelry and whatnot. This is a craving. I have to have a BMW, an ordinary car will not do. I have to have an iPhone. I want to dine well, I want to eat well, I want to look good, I want to present myself well in a very classy fashion. You come to our house and you look at our it's a very aesthetically done house, it's a very aesthetically done interior, and look at our furniture, it's very antique, and the same thing about jewelry, clothing. All of this desire to enjoy and experience and show, all of this is a manifestation of rajoguna, especially when the desire evolves into craving that you cannot live without it. I cannot live without iPhone. I cannot live without BMW. This ordinary car will not do. I will not accept it. That is a rajoguna, number one. Second part is the show off and pompousness. Just imagine a situation wherein, let's say, I buy a sari. I go to a shop. Hyderabad is known for saris. I buy a 50,000 rupees absolutely classic sari. I come back home, and then one fine day I just get up. I wear that sari, I stand in front of mirror, do some makeup, and get up really nice. And for the whole day I stay at home. No one comes to my house. I don't go anywhere. I'm alone in the house, all alone by myself. I wear that 50,000 rupees sari, stay for the whole day. And end of the day I just again change into night dress and go to bed. Does this ever happen? Do we ever do like that? No, we don't do like that. Why do we buy the 50,000 rupees sari? Because we want to wear it. We want to go to some function, and I want the people to ask me, from where did you get it? I want people to pay attention to me for my dressing, and this kind of show off, this kind of pompousness about myself, about my family. हम लोगों का जो हम दो हमारे दो completely आदर्श परिवार. And when we go to some function, the moment we step down from car, everyone is looking at us, such a classy family. All this attitude is a result of rajoguna. Again, we are not saying this is good or this is bad. All we are saying is this manifestation, this attitude is a result of rajoguna. Third is the attachment. It's not just I collect all these classy perfumes and shoes and saris and furniture, and it's not just collection and show off, it's also the attachment to it. There is a family that I know of wherein 4 generations are staying together in one house. This third generation, the grandson and his wife, they came into the house. The first 2 generations are already staying there, and the grandson now has his own son and daughter, so 4 generations staying together. The grandson and his wife tell their elders in the family that we need to renovate this house. We need to adapt it to the new necessities, new conditions, new children, and we have different needs than this old house. But the first generation, which is now 90 years old, is not ready to let go of, no, you cannot break this furniture, you cannot sell these utensils which are like 50-year-old, because we collected them through so much effort. So they want to keep all the possessions. Now when the first and second generation cannot let go of the possessions in the house, how can third generation fit into the house? How can fourth generation fit into the house? But no, this house and everything I have collected, I am attached to it, rajoguna. Excessive pride and ego. So, some pride we will have. They say that you should have abhiman of your dharma, of your samskriti, of your culture in general. So some sort of abhiman is acceptable in vyavhara, in our day-to-day life. But this excessive pride and ego, and again flaunting it everywhere. When I go to these parties, when I go to these get-togethers, people always come and ask me ki, Didi, aap kahan se aayi ho? Then I tell them my background, and they ask me, okay, कौन कौन है आपके घर में? I tell them I have a son who goes to the college. ओ अच्छा, आपका इतना बड़ा बेटा है, आपको देख के तो बिल्कुल नहीं लगता, you look so young. And that's when I feel good about myself. I am 45 years old, but I look like I'm 21 years old, forever 21, and I take pride in that fact because I look so young. I look so beautiful. I have such a flawless skin. And all of that, taking pride in my looks, taking pride in my intelligence. I mean, all these other people, they read Bhagavad Gita 3 or 4 times, they still don't get it. But I read the Bhagavad Gita only once and I get it. So pride in my intelligence, pride in my looks, pride in my methodology, way of working. I mean, my work is so meticulous. If I take something once from the cupboard, I will keep it back exactly in the same location. If you ask me where is that thing, I will tell you exactly where that thing is. It is good to be meticulous. You should be presentable, you should be clean, you should be hygienic, you should be meticulous, you should be punctual. All of these are necessary traits for our day-to-day life. But when your identity becomes centered around that fact that I'm so meticulous, I'm so punctual, I'm so beautiful, I'm so healthy, I take such good care of my health, I'm so artistic, I have this beautiful taste. When your identity revolves around that, whatever little thing you are taking pride in, that is a manifestation of rajoguna. Another thing is the extrovert nature or external focus. There are people who are conditioned to think always about the external world. What is happening in France, what is happening in Germany, what is happening in Ukraine and Russia and US and Trump and Zelensky and cricket. They will have time to think about and discuss about everything which is external, what is happening in his life, her life. Oh, I just heard that they are getting divorced. Oh, I just heard that their son was really brutal to them. And we will keep on gossiping. We will keep on taking interest in someone else's life because our focus is always external in something else, someone else. We will never take time to go into our own mind to see the way we are functioning. How do I behave? How do I talk? What is going on inside me? How much anger? How much jealousy? How much pride? How much ego? How much greed? What is it that I am doing? What is it that I am saying? How am I spending my time? These people will never take time to be a little inward looking. They are always outward looking, and that is one more sign of rajoguna. Another sign is this confusion and ambiguity, or sometimes indecisiveness. These people will get confused very quickly. What do I do? Should I watch a movie or should I watch this web series? And even if I want to watch this web series, there are 5 of them. Which one do I watch? When they go for shopping, they will take 1 hour to decide. Acha, ye saadi lo, wo saadi lo. What do I do? Should I continue with my job? Should I not do my job? Should I, get into some sort of business? So this confusion and ambiguity is a trademark, and some sort of confusion all of us have, some level of ambiguity all of us have. But then if you are not able to pull yourself out of that ambiguity soon, if you are not able to get that clarity soon in your head on what to do, what not to do, and if you are eternally in that confused, ambiguous state of mind, then that is rajoguna. All of these are characteristics, and in the end Bhagwan says how rajoguna binds you is with this continuous activity and restlessness. In all these 3 gunas, I have underlined some cases which is pramada, laziness and sleep is the binding factor of tamoguna. Continuous activity and restlessness is the main binding factor of rajoguna. The others are binding as well, but the main binding factor is this rajoguni person will always feel I should do something. Like this person will sit down in the house for half an hour, empty time, nothing to do, all the basic duties are done. Okay, finally I can sit down and breathe freely. The moment he will sit down, okay, no, I remember I have to clean that cupboard. So immediately he will get up and start cleaning the cupboard. Middle of that activity, oh no, I have to go and water the plants. Then he will go and start watering the plants. Oh no, I have to make a phone call. So he will come back and start making a phone call. So one after other, he will continuously engage himself into some activity. Some of them are necessary, some of them are not necessary, some of them are somewhere in between. But because this person will constantly have this urge from within that if I sit down for half an hour, quietly, decisively, by my choice, then I'm wasting my time. That's what they will feel like. And this feeling, this continuous activity and restlessness that comes with it, even when they sit down to watch TV, they will not watch one channel. 2-minute news, 2-minute something else, some movie. Then they will go to cricket match and continuously change the channels. Will not even watch one thing properly. Will not read one thing properly. No continuity. Constant switching. And all of these are characteristics of rajoguna, and this is how will rajoguna bind you. Elon Musk, I think someone came and checked his phone, the digital well-being app, and they thought there was some problem, some bug in the phone because the digital well-being said that he spent 1 minute on phone. So they thought it was some sort of bug, and they said, okay, is there a problem? He said, no, I actually spent 1 minute on the phone. And again, there are a lot of people, even the technology, leading people in the field of technology. I remember the name of I forget the name of the person. I was reading his interview. He said that when I start my morning, for first 3 or 4 hours, I just do not even touch the phone. And he is some sort of CEO of some big company. I forget his name. I don't start my morning with the gadgets. So one thing is the rajoguna inside us, and second thing is the way society is structured. And we have to very, very consciously get rid of these influences outside of us. The third one is satwaguna, and the meaning of satwaguna is again purity or goodness. There is another meaning of sat, which basically means existence itself, but we will not get into very technical meanings right now. And about the characteristics, one of the most important characteristic of satwaguna is prakashakam. The word prakasha in spiritual text, it means knowledge. So for any person to know anything, it is important to have satwaguna. The process of knowledge heavily depends on how much satwaguna a person has in that moment of time. Sarvadvareshu dehesmin prakasha upajayate. It's a beautiful verse in Bhagvad Gita wherein Krishna says dvareshu, and dvara means door. And he says this body is as if it's a house, and all these senses like 2 eyes and 2 ears and my skin, nose, all of these are doors into the body. All these senses are filled with light. And what kind of light? It's an illuminating light, which means my eyes are filled with the light of satwaguna. Whatever they see will be comprehended, will be assimilated very, very quickly. When my ears are filled with the light of satwaguna, and I'm just using a symbolic language here, there is no light of satwaguna as such, but if the satwaguna is very dominant when I'm listening, is very dominant when I'm seeing, then whatever I'm listening, whatever I'm seeing will go in very quickly, and it will be retained for a very long time. There are people like Shankaracharya, and there are stories of Shankaracharya. If we had time, we could have gone over the story, but you just read a text to the person once and he will know it, he will remember it. You just talk to the person about some event and he will know all the details. This whole process of knowing, of comprehending, of understanding is at its peak when satwaguna is very dominant in that person. So illuminating, necessary for knowledge. This particular aspect of satwaguna is the fact that more the satwaguna, more the person will be able to know and understand and comprehend. It's not just about comprehension, it is also about retention. Like if someone asks me, Didi, you have taken this Bhagavad Gita class last week, what did you teach? Oh, I don't even remember. I have to go back to my notes. I probably taught that shloka. I am not able to retain whatever I taught, whatever I learned, because the satwaguna is not very dominant. People in whom the satwaguna is dominant will remember many things, the important bits of knowledge very clearly in their head. It doesn't have to be spiritual knowledge. It can be physics, it can be maths, it can be economics, it can be whatever they are good at. If the satwaguna is dominant, they will be able to understand, comprehend, and also retain the knowledge. The third part is focus and concentration. Phenomenal focus, phenomenal concentration, right? I mean, again, as I said, this is not just about spiritual life. There are people, when they are painting, they will be so immersed in that whole process of painting that they will not notice what is going on around them. You know, there are these loud noises, people are shouting, people are doing whatever. They will not even notice it because they are heavily concentrated in either reading a book, or practicing some sort of art, doing some sort of study. It could be even a process of cooking, it could be driving, it could be coding, it could be doing some sort of presentation. Any activity which is at my hand, when I'm able to completely immerse myself in it, that is the manifestation of satwaguna, which is steadiness, focus, or concentration. That's the third one. The fourth and the most important part of satwaguna is consistency. Being able to do the same thing over and over and over again without getting bored, without getting tired. There are examples, you know, if you read Sachin Tendulkar's biography, he would tell that I would get up and I would go to practice every single day for 12 hours, and I did that for 12 years of my life. He started his practice, I don't know, around 12 years or even when he was younger. I don't remember the exact numbers now. But he practiced cricket for 12 hours for 12 years in a row, not one day. He did not get up on Sundays and say, okay, I feel like sleeping longer. I feel like watching a movie today. No, I want to practice cricket and I will do it day in and day out. Samartha Ramdas Swami, he did 1200 Surya Namaskar every day for many years. And you take any sports person, you take any scientist, you take any artist who is extremely good in his or her own profession. One thing you will see is that they are consistent. In whatever it is they do, they are consistent, and that consistency comes from satwaguna. That person may be a singer, a classical music singer, he could be even a singer in a rock band doing these hip hop concerts and whatnot. But if he or she is practicing his music, his art, his sport, day in and day out, consistently every day, then that is the effect of satwaguna, heightened satwaguna. Another one is clean mind, which is anamaya. When satwaguna is on a rise, satwaguna will prevent the other negative detrimental vikaras to rise in the mind. So a person who is sattvic will have less anger in general, I am saying, less greed, less jealousy. The sattvic person will not necessarily care, he has so much money, he has BMW, I don't have BMW. Sattvic person will not be engaging into these kind of unnecessary comparisons. He will try to better his own life, better his own version, and not necessarily, not too much anger, too much greed, maybe a little bit, but not to the point that will affect him negatively. So that's again satwaguna. And the last and the most important part, which is the sattvic people, even they are bound. And how are they bound? Krishna says, Sukha sangena badhnati, jnana sangena chanagha. They are bound by the sense of happiness. They are bound by the sense of jnana. I remember, I'll tell you my example. A few years ago, when I was new into this whole Vedanta world, I went to listen to one lecture, which was a pretty complex topic. And I was sitting there attentively listening, and end of the lecture I was kind of looking at people around me, and they were sitting there with completely blank faces. Either they were sleeping or not interested or they didn't understand. I tried to talk to them and I could see that they didn't understand anything at all. What do I think in that moment? Oh, see, I mean, these people, they don't even understand this simple basic Vedanta concept, but I understand it. I can know it. I get all of this, whatever he is saying. This is how the sattvic person gets caught, because he thinks he can learn, he can understand, he can retain, he can be consistent, and he feels good about it. Sukha sangena badnati. He is bound by the sense of knowledge, he is bound by the sense of happiness. These people are generally, there are people in life who are generally happy, generally cheerful. Something small happened in the house and everyone else is very disturbed about it. Now this person will think such a trivial thing, and why do you have to get upset over it? Now look at me. I mean, I'm not upset at all. I am actually completely fine. But these poor people, they are so unhappy. So everyone else is unhappy, but I am happy. I'm fine. I'm not disturbed by this event. I can understand, I can retain, I can comprehend. All of these thoughts, all of these subtle manifestations of ego is how satwaguna binds you. Satwaguna is necessary for me to bring myself out of the clutches of rajoguna and tamoguna. But again, sattvaguna itself is also completely binding to a person. So ultimately what Krishna is going to say to Arjun is nistraigunyo bhavarjuna. You have to transcend the influences of all three gunas. But we cannot directly jump to the position of nistraigunyo or gunatrayatitaha. For us to go to that stage, always the guidance is increase the proportion of sattva, reduce the influences of rajas and tamas inside your personality, and slowly, gradually, as you evolve and settle down into the sattvic life, whether it's in a worldly sense or whether it's in a spiritual sense, gradually also let go of the sattva guna. But that guidance will come at the very end. Right now we have just looked at the manifestations of sattva guna, and then we are going to look at quickly this slide wherein we kind of take all these characteristics together, how much ever we have understood about the three gunas, and we try to again put it into practice. There is a very nice OV in Eknathi Bhagavad which says, Dehi ja gunanse pradhanya, taisech karma upaze jana. Indriyeti gunadhina tadanusara jana vartate. What the OV is saying, that a person, whatever is the pradhanya, whatever is the dominance of the guna inside the body of that person, he or she is mandated to behave as per the motivation which is given by the guna inside him or her. The person has no choice but to behave like that. And how does the person behave? and we will look at just quickly some examples here. So when in a person the pure satwaguna is dominant, Shuddha Sattva. And when I say it is dominant, the Rajas and Tamas are not non-existent, but Rajas and Tamas are in a very nominal, minimal state and also in a very subdued state. So pure Sattva, Shuddha Sattva. What is the main characteristic? Person wants to learn, person wants to know when he is Sattvic in general, the Sattva guna is dominant. But in Shuddha Sattva, the person will want to take up the book of Bhagavad Gita, some spiritual text, and try to read it, maybe try to listen to a spiritual discourse, try to understand whatever is being taught in the Bhagavad Gita or in Panchadashi or in Dasbodh. That is how he would want to spend his time. He would want to learn, but learn something about life which is beyond the obvious monotony of whatever the routine day-to-day life, something beyond it, a higher form of knowledge he will want to learn, spiritual learning, that is pure Sattvaguna. And this same Sattvaguna, when it is in a mixed manner, in Marathi the word is Shabala Sattvaguna, and Shabala means impure or mixed. This Sattvaguna with increased proportion of Rajas. So person is still Sattvic, he still wants to learn, but because of heightened Rajoguna, now I want to learn something about economics. I want to learn what is going on in my field of history. I want to learn something in science. I want to learn something in technology. I want to learn what to do in AI. This Sattva Guna, which is Rajas, inclined towards Rajas or which is mixed with heightened Rajas, is necessary for us to carry out our day-to-day jobs. We want to go to profession. We want to act. We want to constantly upgrade our knowledge. And for upgrading our knowledge professionally, we have to have Sattva Guna. We have to keep learning new things, new technologies. So this Sattva mixed with Rajas will help us in learning the worldly different sciences and arts and technologies and whatnot. Then there is third form of Sattva, wherein person wants to learn, but it is nothing spiritual, nothing worldly, but he wants to learn something about how can I create a nuclear weapon? How can I create a sword? How can I create a new sort of weapon? Maybe create a new virus for mass destruction, war strategies, combating techniques. I want to learn how to do karate. And the intention there is, one intention is to protect myself. Second intention is to go and harm someone. So the learning process is still there, but because the Sattva is there with the heightened Tamas Guna, the person will learn things which are destructive in nature, which are harmful in nature. Learning is common, but what you are learning depends on the composition of the Gunas. Same thing, when you come to Rajas, in pure Rajas, person will continuously want to do something. Now what is that something? It depends on the mix of the other Gunas. If the Rajas is there with heightened Sattva in that moment, then person will want to do activities in the spiritual field. So now I want to organize a satsang. I want to get together people and we want to do a bhajan program. I want to get people together and we want to organize something for Ram Navami. We want to do something for Janmashtami. Okay, let us all get together and go to Mahakumbha, book the tickets for Mahakumbha. The emphasis here on doing something. It's not about learning. It's not about knowing. Emphasis is on doing, but because it is mixed with Sattva, the person is kind of engaged more into spiritual activities. Now the same focus, when person engages into activities not necessarily spiritual, but even in worldly sense, I want to do something for the society. I want to build a dharmashala. I want to donate money to this anath ashram. I want to do something for this vruddhashram. I want to go and donate these gifts to all these orphan kids. I want to build this water well. I want to build these green plants somewhere. So the emphasis is still on doing, but these are all selfless activities for the betterment of society, wherein the person is not necessarily expecting something for himself or herself, but he just wants to contribute to the society. Do something, do something. It's selfless, but it is still Rajoguna and acting with the Sattva mixture of Sattva, but then the inclination is either towards spiritual activities or selfless worldly activities, that is Rajas with Sattva. And then Rajas with Tamas is, I still want to do something, but many of them are either selfish activities, like I still want to go and donate money to this temple, but I want my name to be inscribed there. I want to go and help someone in need, but I want him to say thank you to me. I want to go and work in this NGO, but I want to have this post of being a president in that NGO. So you still want to contribute to the society, but you want something in return for yourself. When you want to do something for the society with selfish intent, that is rajas mixed with tamas. Or I want to do something, I want to go on a war, I want to actually go and learn fighting, I want to go and engage into some sort of destructive activity. All of that is rajas mixed with tamas. And the third thing and the last thing on this slide is pure tamas. Now, pure tamas person is laziness and sleep, just absolutely not doing anything. Will not move, will not act, will not take responsibility, do nothing. That's pure tamas. Now, this tamas, when it is combined with heightened sattva, this tamas is very much needed for people who go and fight on borders. So people who are in army, people who are in security forces, border protection, people who are in police, and people who are working for secret service agencies like RAW, all of them, going and fighting for your country, going and fighting for your dharma. This fighting spirit, this combative spirit comes from tamoguna, but it has to have the combination of heightened sattva, because that is when you will use the sattva and contribute to the society, contribute to the nation, which is necessary. People who are in the earlier category, people who are rajoguni, rajas in nature, and they contribute to the society. So for example, someone is working on an idea of a startup. I want to create this new biotech product. I want to create this neurotech product. And I really want to contribute to the society. That is rajas along with sattva if there are no expectations, and rajas along with tamas if there are expectations. I want my business to grow $1 billion, then that is rajas with tamas. But I want to really do something good for the society, which is why I'm working on the startup, or which is why I'm working on this idea or working in this organization. That is rajas with sattva. Then the third category, which is fighting for dharma and country and that kind of aggression and anger, that is tamas along with sattva. And then the last category is tamas along with rajas, wherein a person wants to be violent, wants to inflict harm on others, manipulate others, be really assertive. Any which way, if I want to harm others and if I'm engaging into some activity purely with the intention of harming other people, then that is tamoguna, which has a bit of heightened of rajas, tamoguna with rajas. So this is again a very high level overview of how the gunas in their pure state and in their combined state come together and make us behave in certain ways. Again, to reiterate the point, none of these gunas can be completely eradicated. None of these gunas, even a Jivan Mukta person, an enlightened person, Santa Jnaneshwara, when he was writing Jnaneshwari, he needed to have rajogun. Without the help of rajogun, the enlightened person would not be able to give a lecture, would not be able to give a discourse, would not be able to write anything. Without the help of tamoguna, the enlightened person will not be able to sleep. So even the spiritually evolved people or enlightened people also need rajoguna to carry out their day-to-day activities. They need tamoguna to rest and sleep. And they need satwaguna to be able to consistently do something for the betterment of society and to help the people around them. So this is in general how the gunas together play. The difference between ordinary people and spiritually evolved people is that ordinary people are not able to understand how the gunas play within themselves, which is why they are controlled by the influences of their gunas, and then they behave. Whichever pravrutti, whichever prerana is given by the guna, we kind of get caught in that flow and we behave exactly how the gunas ask us to behave. Instead, the spiritually evolved person understand how these compositions play together. They are able to increase the sattva, increase the rajas according to their choice and do the activity which they want to do. They will not do the activity which guna asks them to do. They will do the activity which they want to do, and they will use the guna to their effect to carry out their day-to-day tasks as well as their spiritual practice and spiritual sadhana. It's not about, whether we do this work or that work and how much time we spend. It's ultimately how do you manage the combination of gunas within you. We cannot change the constitution of people who are outside of us, right? We cannot do that. But we can definitely influence, be more aware and change our own constitution. And the first step in this entire process is be aware of which guna is being dominant at which time of the day, what is kind of giving you that motivation to act like that. And if you figure out your vulnerable places and your own constitution, then you will be able to work on it gradually and slowly. They are not asking us to work on these characteristics. They are asking you to work at the root level, at the level of the gunas and the composition and the balance, and balancing it out at the root level. So if your rajas goes down, all these other things will automatically go down. How do we bring down rajas? Increase the satwaguna, because as I said, it's like 100%. If you consider I have 70% of rajas and 15% of sattva and 15% of tama, the only way to bring down rajas is to increase the proportion of sattva, take it from 15 to 30, 40, 50, and rajas will automatically go down. How do I increase the sattva guna? All of that is coming up in other slides, that what you eat, what you watch, what you drink, with whom you hang out, what you read, everything that you consume is gonna affect your guna inside. If I study Bhagavad Gita and meditate for 1 hour in the morning, and in the evening I sit down and watch web series for 2 hours, whatever sattva guna I have earned by doing meditation gets nullified when I sit down and watch TV for 2 hours, when I engage in gossip for 2 hours. So it's a complete lifestyle change. We cannot be spiritual for 1 hour and worldly for 23 hours. The 23 hours of our worldly life also need to have that spiritual touch. Only then we can be really spiritual in a true sense. These are not watertight compartments. I will have my 50% spiritual life and 50% worldly life. Doesn't work like that. So this is in general how the gunas come together and play in our life. So with this, I think we will stop the main talk here. Hari Om. That's it.